To His Excellency, Mr. Omar A, Touray.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ECOWAS welcomes the opportunity to brief the Security Council about the political and security situation of West Africa. We are grateful to the United Kingdom's presidency for the invitation. I particularly welcome the opportunity to take the floor just after the SRSG and head of UNOWAS, Minister Salimatou, with whom I continue to work very closely in the region. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us remind ourselves about a few features of the sub-region. The 400 million population of the sub-region is made up for the large part by young, ambitious and dynamic people. The youthful population, the fertile land and the natural resources hold considerable promise for the people of West Africa. That promise hinges on governance and security. By governance, I am referring not only to the assumption of power through inclusive democratic processes, but also to accountability in the management of public affairs. The region's performance on this score needs to be recognized. 12 of the 15 countries have democratically elected governments. 12 have term limits enshrined in their constitutions. And we are confident that this number will increase shortly. Major elections that have taken place in the region this year alone include the presidential, legislative and state elections in Nigeria, Sierra Leone and Guinea-Bissau. The good showing by the opposition in the various countries suggests that democracy is alive in the region. But, Excellencies, the region is worried about the resurgence of the military in the political space. The fact that 3 out of the 15 countries of the region are under military rule is indicative of a reversal of the region's democratic gains. For ECOWAS, this is unacceptable, and all the countries must return to constitutional order within the specified time frames. Your support to the transition to constitutional order in all the 3 countries is not only crucial, it is also in our collective interest. Excellencies, the reversal of democratic gains runs parallel to insecurity that West Africa and the Sahel have been facing for some time now. We can spend the whole day talking about the drivers of insecurity in the region, but allow me to single out terrorism, armed rebellion, organized crime, unconstitutional change of government, illegal maritime activities, environmental crisis, and fake news as being key drivers of insecurity in the sub-region. Victims of insecurity, those killed, maimed, and displaced, and those who have lost livelihoods are the subject of conflicting figures. Yet all the figures are indicative of the pain and suffering that insecurity continues to inflict on the people. For example, from January 1st to June 30, 2023, 1,814 incidents of terrorist attacks were recorded in West Africa. These incidents resulted in 4,593 fatalities. 2,725 were recorded in Burkina Faso, 844 in Mali, 211 in Niger, 77 in Nigeria, 70 in Benin, and terrorist attacks in Benin Republic and the Togolese Republic are a stark indication of the expansion of terrorism to littoral states, a situation that poses additional threat to the region. The insecurity continues to have dire humanitarian consequences, with significant number of refugees and internally displaced population in Nigeria, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. By end of April 2023, a total of 500,000 refugees were recorded in the region, made up of significant number in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Nigeria. the total number of internally displaced persons stands at 6,182,117 displaced people, made up of 2 million in Burkina Faso, 3.3 million in Nigeria, and almost 500,000 in Mali. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, food security situation in the region suggests that insecurity does not only affect our present, it also threatens our future. Our assessments have indicated that nearly 30 million people are in need of food assistance. In the absence of adequate response, the number of people needing food assistance will increase from 30 million to 42 million by the end of next month. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this is just a snippet of the horrendous impact of insecurity in West Africa. Responses to insecurity in the region have been diverse. They include bilateral, plurilateral, and multilateral arrangements such as Barkhane, Takuba, G5 Sahel, Accra Initiative, Multinational Joint Task Force, MINUSMA, and ECOWAS's own plan of action for the eradication of terrorism. These important initiatives and operations have had impact on the ground. While we acknowledge the role of these initiatives, we cannot ignore some of the challenges they present. The multiplicity of the initiatives present problems of coordination, ownership, and inclusion. As ECOWAS, our proposal is to integrate the various initiatives into the regional plan of action and use them as specialized operational tools of the regional mechanism. This will facilitate coordination, promote ownership, and enhance inclusion. ECOWAS heads of state and government have taken 3 decisions aimed at facilitating the transition to such an inclusive arrangement. These are the decisions regarding the review of the mandate of the regional standby force, with a view to enabling it to address the challenges of insecurity through various forms of interventions, including kinetic operations. The decision also relates to the financing of the regional mechanism. And the third decision relates to the review of the existing plan of action, with a view to updating and aligning it with the new decisions taken. The consultations that have taken place among the chiefs of defense staff of member states seek to strengthen the mandate of the regional standby force in a manner that will enable it to support member states in the fight against terrorism and against threats to constitutional order. 2 options have been proposed by the military chiefs. A brigade of 5,000 troops at an annual cost of $2.3 billion, or a deployment of troops on demand with an annual cost of $360 million. Excellencies, these recommendations predate the decision of this august body to close MINUSMA in Mali. Yet, regional leaders have reflected on the possible adverse impact of the withdrawal on the region and have decided to convene an extraordinary session on peace and security by the end of August 2023. In preparation for the extraordinary summit, a troika of heads of state composed of Nigeria, Benin, Guinea, plus Niger met on the 18th July to reflect on the political and security situation in the region. Their conclusions constitute the main message I would like to bring to the attention of this August Council. With respect to the political situation in the regional leaders have decided to re-engage the 3 member states in transition at the highest level. To that end, His Excellency Patrick Talon, President of the Republic of Benin, will undertake a consultative visit in the 3 countries on behalf of the Troika. The leaders have also underscored their resolve to see an expeditious return to constitutional order in the member states in accordance with the relevant ECOWAS protocols and the transition charters of each of the 3 countries. The leaders have also affirmed ECOWAS's commitment to supporting credible and inclusive democratic election in each of the three countries. They have also reaffirmed their support to the Algiers peace process that seeks to facilitate peaceful settlement between the government of Mali and the armed groups. Leaders call on the international community, especially members of the United Nations Security Council, to support Algiers peace process in Mali, as well as the ECOWAS position on the transition in the region. On the security situation of the region, the leaders stressed the region's resolve to providing robust response to threats to peace in the region. The regional response shall include the expeditious operationalization of revised ECOWAS plan of action for the eradication of terrorism in the region. It will also include collaboration with other security initiatives and direct support to member states, including countries in transition, in their fight against terrorism. The leaders reiterate their strong commitment to financing the regional security mechanisms from the region's own resources. Excellencies, the regional resolve does not take away UN Security Council's responsibility in the maintenance of world peace. In this regard, regional leaders reiterate their support for African Union's request for a predictable funding of African-led mission through the assessed contribution. This position has been adequately supported and defended by the Secretary General of the United Nations on several occasions, the most recent occasion being the Secretary General's report on the implementation of Security Council Resolution 2320 and 2327, and considerations related to the financing of African Union peace support operations mandated by the Security Council of 1st May 2023. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to conclude this statement with reminders from the Secretary General of the United Nations. I quote the Secretary General: "The time when requests related to peace support operations could be considered as exceptional circumstances is behind us. To more effectively meet the challenges of today, support to such operations must be in a more systematic manner. I urge the Security Council to signal its clear support for providing African Union peace support operations with access to United Nations assessed contribution. This would represent a concrete demonstration that the Council stands ready to break new grounds and address a critical gap in the international peace and security architecture, as well as a strong reaffirmation of the willingness of the Council to stem the scourge of armed conflict on the African continent. I thank you for your attention."
I thank His Excellency Mr. Touray for his briefing.